Welcome into Deep Waters here on ProBox TV, your source for boxing news Monday through Friday. In the Deep Waters right now, we have a little disappointment. That's right. Looks like Gervonta Tank Davis will not be taking on Vasily Lomachenko later this year. Apparently, the failure coming from Lomachenko's side of the negotiations. Right now, Top Rank saying it was something personal having to do with the family issues. Of course, his country at war. Could be a multitude of things. Jimmy Smith alongside Chris Algieri here in studio via Zoom. Paulie Malignaggi and the coach, Teddy Atlas, lending their weight into this difficult subject. First thing I got to touch on, Chris, disappointment level, right? This is a guy who could maybe at least tactically give Gervonta Davis some problems, see what he's got in terms of his boxing IQ, especially his tendency to give rounds early in fights, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to see that. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I'm actually very disappointed. I was really interested in this fight. I thought it was a fight that made a lot of sense. It seemed like both sides wanted it to happen. Lomachenko has been saying in the past that he wanted to fight Tank Davis. Tank Davis finally wants to fight Lomachenko. He's been saying he wants that fight. It just seems like Tank Davis has turned a corner. He's ready for all the smoke. He's gotten to a position now where he's like, listen, I'm about 30 years old. Get me all the big fights. And listen, I'm not mad about it. He's been looking phenomenal. I thought that matchup was going to be really, really interesting because of what you mentioned, Jimmy. Lomachenko, so tactical, so strategic, just has had a phenomenal career. Yes, long in the tooth, but he's got a ton of experience. How would he match up with the wits of Tank Davis? Because now we've realized that he's a very good boxer, too. Yes, we knew it, but now he's put it on display. I really wanted to see how that was going to go. Lomachenko is actually a very exciting fighter, too, so it's the kind of fight that would be very exciting. I think Loma would be able to push Tank in ways that maybe we haven't seen him have to come to yet. Yeah, I'm very disappointed. But listen, I mean, with Lomachenko, I know a lot of people are calling duck. I think we got to give him enough respect that necessarily that's not going to be the first thing that comes to mind. Listen, I remember being a 36-year-old boxer, man. If you ain't ready to train, if your body's not ready to train, if anything else is going on in your life, I mean, if you have the opportunity to take a step back, take a step back. I get it. Problem is, he's running out of time at 36. So, yeah, a lot of questions are arising from this, but one thing that's for certain is people are going to be disappointed. I am one of them.
Yeah, we'll discuss the future and possible future opponents, including Shakur Stevenson, in a moment. But, Paulie, you've been vocal about saying this fight should have happened a few years ago. Still intriguing. Still some great aspects to the fight, but it should have happened a few years ago. Are you glad that it's moving out of the way for bigger things for Tank, or are you disappointed it's not happening?
Yeah, I really rate Tank as a fighter. I'll start with that. I think, especially recent performances, I feel like he's looking sharper, better. He's showing a lot of dimensions to his style. Having said that, I'm not in the Tank Davis management game. I'm in the boxing. I want to see the best fights game. So, Champ, you said Tank wants all the smoke. I don't think so. I don't know if at 37 years old you're calling out 37-year-olds now when they were in their prime you were allergic to their name. I don't know if that's really wanting all the smoke. I feel like if you really want all the smoke, now's your chance to show it because he's definitely looking his best. Tank Davis is definitely looking his best right now. So if he wants all the smoke, Shakur Stevenson is a free agent. The fight is a phone call away, and I know we're going to get into that in a bit. So I'm looking forward to Tank wanting all the smoke now because calling out wanting to fight a 37-year-old when in his prime you could have fought him because you're 29. It's not like Davis is 25, where a few years ago he was 21. You say, he's got to develop. He's too young. He's 29. So he could have fought Lomachenko 26, 25, instead of keeping that fake belt and defending it like it was a real world title and Showtime letting him get away with that too and announcing him as a world champion when he wasn't. So, and mind you, I say that because he had already been a two-time world champion at 130 pounds, major world titles, so this guy was not like just getting on the scene, okay, and he's not ready for a Lomachenko type. He'd been a world champion twice and still never mentioned Lomachenko's name, never went anywhere near it, then never tweeted about it, wanted nothing to do with it. So I am not disappointed at all that he doesn't get this fight now at 37 years old, because this was a nice little chess move he was making, and it was brilliant. I mean, it really was from a Gervonta Davis management standpoint. But if you're a boxing fan and you're not a groupie, that's not really the fight you want at this point. You don't want that fight when Lomachenko's 37. You're looking at this landscape of the lightweight division now, and you're like, oh, Tank's involved. Tank is one of the top fighters there. He's in his prime. But there's that other guy who's in his prime too, and that's really the fight you want. Unless you're in the Tank Davis management game where you're making money on Tank Davis. Because if you're a groupie and you're not making any money off him, then there is absolutely no reason for you to be disappointed in this fight, because you should be more excited that now there's no obstacle standing in the way of Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson. Because wanting all the smoke means wanting the next baddest guy in the weight class who's in his prime. If you really want all the smoke. pretend wanting all the smoke, then it's different.
Champ, they're both under 30 years old. He could fight Lomachenko and then fight Shakur next. Like, I'm just saying, if we're not going to see Lomachenko now. We're not going to. That's why I'm disappointed in that. I always wanted to see Lomachenko and Davis. We're not going to see it.
Lomachenko is a guy who's taken on every single guy in their primes and never ducked a fight. As a matter of fact, if there was a guy in his prime and he was the toughest guy in the weight class, he went right at him. He didn't let him marinate. He didn't do this. He went right at them right away. As soon as he could fight them, he went right at them. And there were guys who were below him that were trying to call him out, like Devin Haney, and then he made like he ducked them. No, Devin Haney didn't get ducked. Devin Haney was just lower down the totem pole at the time, and there was Teofimo Lopez who was up higher on the totem pole. Lomachenko always went for the toughest opponents constantly. Never let anything marinate. Never really actually. If we're talking about the management game and the way he could have been managed, he could have probably been moved a little bit differently, because I think he gets underappreciated now because he took on so many tough fighters right away. Because then everybody makes like, oh, it doesn't matter if you lose. Well, obviously it does, because Lomachenko should be very, very appreciated for taking on the toughest fights consistently. Literally, the guy, he wanted all the smoke constantly. So no, I don't even look at this as a
now you sound like you're in the Lomachenko management game. But let's talk about this fight. We're not seeing this fight now.
36 years old.
Okay, so you don't want the fight. You don't want to see the fight.
Oh, what do I care about this fight for? What do I care about this fight? There's
the things that I said. I think it's
in there.
I think there's a way that he can push.
Shakur Stephens has been waiting way too long already.
He can push Tank in a way that we haven't seen yet. That's what I want to see.
Teddy,
36, 37.
Yeah, of course he can.
While we're discussing this, gentlemen, while we're discussing this and we're talking about the age, Teddy, I want to ask you about this. Look at it from the other side. Where does Lomachenko go at his age? Zapata, the number one contender for his title, that could be early next year.
Where do you have to go? What do you? Right. You're like pissing me off now a little bit, and I love you. But where's he got to go? The guy fought for a freaking world title in his second fight. To what Paulie's talking about, his second fight. Nobody else out there demanding that. He demanded when he went to Top Rank. He went around the country to see what promoter he was going to sign. I know that because they actually stopped here to have lunch at my house in Staten Island when they were going on the tour, when he was coming out of the amateurs, having won his second gold medal, one of the few people that have won 2 gold medals in 2 separate Olympics. And they were going around to see who they were going to go with. They went with Top Rank because they demanded to Top Rank, we want to fight for the world title the first fight. They couldn't do it the first fight, so he fought for the world title the second fight. Then their third fight, he wins the world title against another Olympian, another undefeated fighter. Listen, it upsets me that we even have to defend a guy like this, a guy like Lomachenko, because he has done exactly what Paulie said. He seeked out the best right from the beginning. He seeked out the best. He only wanted to fight the best. And now he is 37. That's on the table. That's a factor. That is more than, that's a real elephant in the room. It's a reality. He is older now, and he doesn't have his best chance to win that fight. And we don't even know that he's not going to come back and still have that fight. He still might. You never know. But right now, with everything going on personally in his life, with his family, with the country, with everything else, he deserves. If anyone, I don't see people going crazy over Canelo when he ducked Benavidez, but they're gonna go crazy over this guy who, again, he's not only fought them because they were brought to him, he seeked them out. He went out there like a heat-seeking missile and found the toughest guys out there. And now we're gonna dare to knock him at this point in his career when he's 37, and he still might come back and fight. But I agree that this is not the Lomachenko Tank Davis fight. And I've been a big advocate of Tank Davis. Years ago said he's more than just a puncher. He's a really complete fighter. Now everybody sees it. Everybody's smelling the same roses. But I wanted to see that fight when they were both in their prime. Not now. Not as much now. I wouldn't say I wouldn't watch it now, but I don't think that it's as indicative of what Lomachenko would be able to possibly do as it would have been a few years ago. A few years ago, what it would have came down was really not just a test of their skills, but a test of their wills. because both guys are similar in that way, where they make you miss, they can put pressure on you. Lomachenko was the master at that. He was the master at aggressive counterpunching. Yeah, I said it. Aggressive counter. He'd walk right in, kind of like a Roberto Duran when he was young. He'd walk right in, he'd make you miss, bang, 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 counter right back, and keep doing it until he took your soul. Until he got you to a place where you felt like you had no hope. You couldn't hit him, and you couldn't stop him from coming forward and hitting you. He was that guy. Tank Davis is along those lines. I wanted to see whose will, with the skill levels mixed in there, whose will would bend first. I couldn't wait to see that. I could wait now because Lomachenko is older.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate too. Champ, Chris, one more thing too with playing. I'm going to play devil's advocate with you. You're saying, oh, Lomachenko is going to be 37. He's going to be old. Why don't we make that fight now and then we can see Shakur Stevenson later? Why didn't Tank Davis do it when he was 25, 26? He knew Lomachenko was going to get older. He knew Lomachenko at a certain point was going to be out. It's going to come a point where Lomachenko's 36, 37, 38. He's not really going to have the luster that if I fight him at 25, 26. I've already been a world champion at 130 pounds. What am I keeping this fake belt for? Contend to defend it, a fake belt. Why don't I fight Lomachenko now? It's not going to have the same luster, 37, 38. But you know why he waited? Why he waited?
I do know why.
He knew. Exactly. So
no, that's not why.
So now we're going into Tank Davis.
I'm going devil's advocate now, so you're devil's advocate.
Go ahead.
Teddy,
one on top of mine.
Teddy, you said it. You were like, I want to see these guys in their prime. I'm going to argue Tank's in his prime right now. And I don't think he's been in the prime yet. But I don't think he wasn't in his prime when he was 25. So the difference in these guys is they're in different timelines. If we want them in their prime, we got to do a fantasy matchup because neither one of these guys are in their prime at the same time. I don't think Tank was at his best until very recently. And I've always been a fan of Tank, but he wasn't willing. He wasn't showing the things he's been showing us lately.
I think Tank's been there for the last couple of years. So give me Loma. Go back 3 years. Okay. Yeah, I'll see your devil's advocate. I'll raise your devil's advocate, and I'll go press and I'll push forward on your devil advocate. Go give me a couple. Just give me a couple years. Just a couple years. I'm not asking for 5. Just give me 3, maybe 4.
Guys, I'm actually with both of you. I love both of these fighters. I think we're all in agreement. We're not using the word duck at all with Lomachenko. It's whatever's happening with him personally.
Why don't we
I'm going to play devil's advocate. Let me play one more devil's advocate. Go ahead.
Why don't we point the argument towards, hey, let's see 2 guys now that are in their prime. Everybody's been knocking the hell out of Shakur Stevenson. He hasn't helped his case. He's gone out there. He said things to people that he probably should have just kept his mouth shut, but he did what he did. He went out there. He said things. Everybody's on his case. Make that fight. Why are we even talking about this if we have to talk away about the age? Why is this even a conversation for the boxing fans that are really smart out there? Not the ones that are, that come fly-by-night boxing fans, but the real dedicated boxing fans.
Gentlemen, that's what we have here.
I'm just saying, there's no argument. Right. Just give me Shakur and Tank, and we're good.
That's where Davis is going right now. It looks as though Gervonta Davis, Shakur Stevenson, in the madness of boxing.
Into it, though.
Right, in the madness of boxing.
I have one more devil's advocate to raise. I have one more devil's advocate to raise.
Paulie, but we got to acknowledge, and trust me, we can get to you in a second. You have to acknowledge we backed into a better fight. Paulie, is that what we're saying?
Yes, we backed into it because he wasn't looking for it. I'm gonna go one more devil's advocate. If Lomachenko was Tank Davis at 29 years old, he would not be looking to fight the 37-year-old who had been great. He will be looking to fight the 25-year-old who's in his prime, calling him out, wanting to be the best, because that's the next best. And anybody's going to make the Devin Haney comparison. Devin Haney was nobody when Teofimo Lopez was around. Okay, so Lomachenko chose Teofimo Lopez because he had the belt and he was a higher-rated fighter. Lomachenko would choose the higher-rated fighter. He would not choose the 37-year-old. So if Tank Davis and Lomachenko were reversed ages right now,
no one is arguing the greatness of Lomachenko. Lomachenko is a special. He's a special once-in-a-lifetime guy. He's
supposed to chase the top fight.
And he's a proud guy. I think that's what Paulie's arguing. He's a proud guy, and he's not to even put duck in the same sentence with his name. That's insulting.
I hate it. I hate it.
No.
I hate the idea of that.
And one last thing, for all the fans out there that are going crazy and everything, let me just say one thing to you. Pacquiao Mayweather. How upset were you guys? You were going crazy when you said that fight took 5 years, came to 5 years too late. Oh my God, they robbed us. It actually hurt the industry of boxing. It set back boxing because pay-per-view, people were like, okay, you fooled me once, shame on me. You fooled me, shame on you. You fooled me twice, shame on me. And people backed away a little bit because they felt burnt. They felt like that fight was given to them, like I said, 5 years too late. So it's the same situation here. So the boxing fans that are calling them duck and going crazy, remember what you said, not me. What you guys said. It came out of your own mouths. You got tentative about buying other pay-per-view. Yeah, the pay-per-view numbers dropped off that. The facts show us that. It was documented. And you said, oh no, you're not gonna get me again. You guys screwed me. You guys set me up. You gave me Pacquiao and Mayweather, and it was too late, and I'm not gonna be fooled again. So the same people that felt that way, you should be thinking about it right now when you're talking about you want Lomachenko and Davis now.
Well, now it looks like Tank Shakur Stevenson will be. Shakur Stevenson's people said, we're a phone call away. Reach out. We'll make this fight happen. He's a free agent. There's no reason why it shouldn't. That's why it'll happen, right, Chris?
Yeah.
That's what it's got to happen. It's so easy. Done.
Listen, if 5 months from now we look back and this fight happened, we're all going to be looking like, oh man, this is dumb. But this is boxing, and it seems like Teddy, you brought up Mayweather and Pacquiao. Perfect way to describe this, because if these guys end up doing that, I don't know. I'm throwing my hands up, but yeah, there's a pathway now for this fight to happen
100%.
Right now.
And
there's no reason not to.
That picture you just showed, beautiful, great. I love it. The two of them together. You know what that is? That is our version. That is boxing's version of the lie detector test, the polygraph test. It's right there. That's the polygraph test. If they want this fight, it's right there. It's there to be made. That's it. If not, guess what? That polygraph test is going like this. It's starting to move. The line's going up and down because somebody's lying.
Well, Teddy, that's the good thing now. These guys are going to be put to the test. They're going to be put to the brass tacks. We're going to see who's going to take this fight now. Now, what is the obstacle now? One guy wanting it or one guy not, and that's it. One guy not wanting it. That's the obstacle. So if the fight doesn't happen, we're gonna have our answer.
Keep in mind, people can price themselves out. So let's see how the negotiations go, because that's
also but that's part of it too. You know that.
That's quiet quitting. That's a way to not make a fight.
You know, that's a silent way. That's the silent agreement. You know, that is doing something with latex gloves and not leaving fingerprints. That's what that is. That's all that is. You're just not leaving your fingerprints on it where it's so obvious. Oh, he didn't want that fight. No. Oh, no, they didn't give me the money I was worth. You know, but meanwhile, you asked for way over the market.
Now, Paulie, that's what I'm curious about in this. Now, let's take this hypothetical situation. As Chris pointed out, two fighters, no reason for them not to fight in their primes, both undefeated, both in the same weight class. If it doesn't happen, whose legacy do you think gets soured by it? Who do you think the public is going to blame if it doesn't come together? I'm very curious about that for you. Who needs this to happen a little more?
I don't know if the public, from what I gauge from this recent public, the modern day public, is even intelligent enough to understand that it should be. The onus is on Davis. He's a bigger name right now. He's popular, and he's looking great. It's not like you can't not. This is the best fight the lightweight division can make right now is Davis and Shakur Stevenson. That's why we're clamoring about it. Nobody's criticizing either of these two fighters because I think they're looking their best right now, right? I mean, with Shakur, there's always that enigma, like how good can he really be? He makes everything look so easy, but we want to see him against one of these top guys. Well, now's a chance to see him against a top guy, and we get our answer. Does Davis believe Shakur is that good, or does Davis not think he's that good? Because if he doesn't think he's that good and the demand is there, this is the fight to make. If he thinks he's that good, it's still the fight to make, because at this point, you're 29 years old. It's put up or shut up at this point. You know, like you made your name, you made your money, all this other stuff. But again, he still hasn't fought a guy who, when you went into the fight, you were looking at it like, wow, I can't really pick a winner. He hasn't fought a guy like that yet. I mean, you can understand boxing used to do this all the time in the good old days. And that's why we always clamor about the good old days. Leonard and Hearns fought each other in their early 20s. And by that point, Leonard had already fought Benitez. You know what I mean? Leonard had already fought Benitez. The Hearns had already knocked out Cuevas. Like, bro, you were going into these title fights, these mega fights, where guys had already won 50-50 fights coming into the fight. You rarely see that. Now they fight these names where they kind of get them at the right moment, so on and so forth. I thought Frank Martin was a solid win. I'm not even going to knock Tank Davis. He's got some good solid wins on his resume. He's got Pitbull Cruz. He's got Frank Martin. He's got Jose Pedraza at 130 pounds. But this is the true 50-50 fight right here. This is the one where you really look at it and people are divided down the middle. Who's going to win this fight? You know, people are really divided down the middle. And you don't know who's going to win this fight. That's why it's the fight to make. Boxing rarely does this. Will these guys give us this fight? You can see the way Shakur's been talking. He wants to fight. He's been wanting to fight. You know, Shakur's the only one who's been calling all these guys out, and the fight never happens. Let's see. Now he's a free agent.
Now Shakur coming off the last fight. Really, honestly, he needs it. He actually.
And he's a free agent. He can do it. He's a free agent. He can do it.
Teddy, your point is spot on. Shakur needs all of the big guys. He needs the big names because it comes down to what he's able to do with these guys. He is so otherworldly good. He makes the fights look so easy. So when you put in a guy that's not really well known, he doesn't get the recognition for it. Now you put him in with a tip-top guy. I'm going to bring up the Oscar Valdez fight. He goes to Oscar Valdez. People think this is going to be a fight. It was a wash. He completely dominated him, completely disarmed somebody who was a very, very good fighter and still doing very, very well at that weight class. Shakur completely disarms him.
Was he a little sharp one? Was Valdez a little sharp one? I'm not trying to.
I don't think so. Not at that point. At that point, no, I don't think so. I think he's had good fights since then. He looked really good.
Big amateur career, always tough fights.
Yeah.
He was in tough fights even before that. All right.
But that was, Teddy, that was 3 years ago. And now he's still fighting and still doing well. So, I mean, yeah, is he a little shot more? Definitely older than Shakur, definitely smaller. But, I mean, for Shakur to be able to completely disarm somebody with that level of amateur background, that he's been in those big fights, he's, was a multiple-time world champion, multiple division world champion. I thought that was really impressive. And that's what Shakur needs. He needs the tip-top guys. Because if he can do to those guys what he's been doing to the guys that we don't care that much about, we have our answer. He's the best around. So he needs those fights. You're right, Teddy.
Remember, we have broken it down in the lightweight division. Who to man in this weight class? Check it out on our channel. It's been great as always, ladies and gentlemen. Should we see Shakur Stevenson, Gervonta Davis? Remember, we talked about it first here. We'll see you next time on Deep Waters.
Wednesday Night Fights.
Dynamite action on Wednesday Night Fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel.
Coming up on your next Wednesday Night Fights, July 31st, ProBox veterans Alberto Palmetta and Jesus Sriracha return to battle it out in the main event. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at proboxtv.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday Night Fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.